welcome to you, Penny, from your kitchen. You're live with us with Sharon Today, and over to you.
So I'm going to start backwards. I'm going to show you, here's one I made earlier, so you can see what we're aiming at the end of the day. So here is one I made earlier, and I'm now going to show you how to take it out of the tin, because that's something that people struggle with. So I've got a jug of hot water here and a spatula thin knife, and literally I am going to very gently take this knife, hot knife, all the way around the edge like that, and then because it's a spring form tin, we're just going to loosen it off like that, lift that away, throw that away, and then so I've got cheesecake. Okay, I've got a nice glass dish here, and I'm going to very gently take the cheesecake and slide it off. That actually has still got the paper on it, but we won't worry too much about that. And I'm going to decorate it because I quite like to decorate it. So I'm just going to throw a little bit of creme fraiche on the top. Can you still see all that? So just very quickly throw some creme fraiche on the top, get rid of that. Some lovely fresh berries. And do a bit higgledy-piggledy there. There we are, lovely fresh berries. And I'm just going to finish it off with a bit of decadence and a few flakes there. This is Mike's dinner tonight, he'll enjoy this. And there you are, that's what we're aiming at, a lovely, I'm going to lift it up, I hope it doesn't slip off. There you are, that's our cheesecake that we're aiming for. You don't need to do all this fancy schmancy stuff, you can just do a plain cheesecake. So I'm going to pop that over there. I'm going to get on with the real business of making the cheesecake. So I've got a spring form tin here, and I've got some baking parchment. And I'm taking a pencil and I'm just going to mark around the tin like that, and then a pair of scissors, and I'm going to sort of a bit roughly chop that out. But I'm also going to show you a cheap's way of doing this in a second. I didn't want to have all this prepared because you need to be doing it as well. So that's that. Or something. This may be a little bit too big, so I don't know if any of you are dressmakers, but if you just trim little marks all the way around the edge, this will help to sit into the cake tin. This is what you do on darts when you're dressmaking. So that now should fit very nicely in your cake tin, like that. A cheap's way of doing it is Lakeland, who are brilliant. You can buy things online with Lakeland, make you ready-made circles, which I must say I use all the time. Don't bother with what I've just shown you, but obviously I want to show you how to do things properly. So you need to now measure out 175 grams of butter or margarine or low-fat spread or vegan spread or whatever it is you're using. I've already measured mine out in a glass bowl so you can see it, and that's going to go in the microwave for about a minute to melt. So while that's melting, we're going to take our digestive biscuits and we're going to get our aggression out. I've got a Ziploc or a self-sealed bag here, and into the bag I'm putting the biscuits. Any questions? I'm going to seal the bag because the last thing we want is biscuits going everywhere. Now I've got a board here because I like to protect my work surface, and I've got a lovely rolling pin, and now I'm going to bash my biscuits. Anyway, so here we go. You want to get these quite fine. like that. If there are a few that are a bit big, you can probably just bash them in the tin. You can use a food processor and process them down on the food processor, but for this you just don't really want to get the whole food processor dirty. So I've got my melted butter and I've got my biscuits, and I am going to put one into the other. So we're literally going to pour the biscuits, and then I shall take a spoon or a spatula. I like these spatulas. These ones came from Morrison's and they're really handy, good handles, and they're really good silicone spatulas. And we're just going to gradually get the butter, mix the butter into the biscuits. Could have made this a little bit finer, but it doesn't really matter. I like a few chunks in my cheesecake. So that's all sort of mixed in quite nicely. If it's a bit dry, you can melt a bit more butter and add it, but you don't want too much because you don't want it to be too greasy. Cheesecake is fattening enough anyway. So that is now going to go into our ready prepared tin, like this. It's going to be a really good solid bottom, rather like mine. And I'm just going to take the spatula again and press it down so that it's very carefully put into the tin. And when you've done that, it needs to go into the fridge. Right, that is going straight into the fridge to cool down. I've measured out the 600 grams of soft cheese. You can use any cheese. I think I just said in my notes, soft cheese, vegan cheese, quark, which is a low-fat version. This is the Waitrose 50% reduced fat. Lots of people say you should go with full fat because it will stay firmer. I'm not a great believer in full fat cream cheese, again because of my hips, but if you are vegan, here's a wonderful alternative. This creamy Violife cream cheese, well, it isn't cream cheese, but this is actually really good, and I know vegans who use this and they really like it. So you could use the equivalent of this Violife, I should say, and instead of the cream we use an Oatly creme fraiche, and it works absolutely fine. So just wanted to show you that as an alternative. I'm a great believer in alternatives so that everybody can eat everything. Obviously Shavuot, being a dairy festival, is quite difficult for vegans to eat a lot, but there are things you can do. So we've got 600 grams of cream cheese here, and into that bowl we're going to add 100 grams of icing sugar. Now normally with icing sugar you'd need to sieve it because it can be a bit lumpy. I mean, here's a lump for example, but it will break down. This is quite fresh icing sugar. But because we're going to use a whisk, we don't need to sieve it today. So 100 grams of icing sugar straight into the bowl. And then we are going to add some vanilla. This is the one I use. It's called Little Pod Vanilla Essence, vanilla paste. It's absolutely brilliant. It's straight from Madagascar. I really love it. And we need a teaspoon of that. I'm going to just do it by eye. See, I've nearly finished this one, as you can see. Again, later do one, and I think Waitrose and Sainsbury's do one. Vanilla bean, it's organic, it's very similar. I can't open them, but smells wonderful, and it's just a paste, and it's so much nicer than that liquid stuff that we used to have. It's really powerful. So that's your first 3 ingredients that are going into the bowl. And then what we're going to do, I've just dropped vanilla. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to take a hand whisk, You could do this on on a mixer or a food processor, but it's easier to do it with a hand whisk when I'm demonstrating. This may go everywhere, so what I'm just going to do is, before I do that, is I'm just going to very gently with my spatula mix a little bit of the icing sugar and the cream cheese in, so that I don't have icing sugar going everywhere, like that. Here it goes. It's going to make a noise, so I'm sorry I can't talk for a second. So that is now quite soft and fluffy. And what we're going to do is we're now going to add the double cream to the mixture. So the recipe says a 300 ml pot of double cream. So I'm literally just going to pour that straight in. And then I'm going to use the whisk again and make some more noise. Again, I'm just going to very gently work that in before I get the process wrong, because my bowl is not quite as deep as I would like it to be. So just do that, and again I'm going to have a bit of noise, but hopefully you're all doing this with me, so you're all making a noise. And that just looks like a huge bowl of whipped cream, which looks very delicious. So, some of you may be living on your own or not got hundreds of people coming round to visit at the moment, so you may not want to be making a great big cheesecake. You may just want small cheesecakes. So I just wanted to show you some alternatives that you could do. You can get these wonderful silicone muffin tins or whatever. Well, they're not tins, but they're sheets, muffin sheets. And you could make your cheesecakes in these. And you can pop them in the freezer to just get them really cold. And then literally, when they are cold, you can pop them out like that. And they're perfect. So if you were wanting to make cheesecakes, not just for Shavuot, but for any time, you could make a dozen of them, pop them in the freezer, and suddenly you've got guests coming over. You can unpop them, put a bit of fruit and whatever on them, and you've got your own individual cheesecakes ready made in the freezer. Just a little tip. Or you can make them in ramekins. They look quite nice on a plate, on a ramekin. They're very difficult to get out though, which is why I like these ones. And again, I think if you've got vegan guests coming, why not make a few individual vegan ones? That's perfect. As a caterer, I very often make individual desserts. So I would make maybe an individual dessert like that, so it's ready done, it looks really pretty on a plate. Or even the mini muffin size, which I'll do for an afternoon tea, or again for a mini trio dessert, things like that. So it's just about being a little bit more inventive with whatever you're doing. So, right, we've got, I hope you've all now got your cheesecake mixture ready. That looks quite nice, I must say. As I say, it looks a bit like whipped cream. You could taste it if you want, but there's not really very much else you could add to that at this stage, because it's a very simple recipe. So I'm now going to get my cake tin out of the fridge. So you can get your cake tins out of the fridge as well. And we are going to put, so you can see it's a pretty stiff mixture, but it needs to be stiffer than this because you won't be able to cut that. So this has got to sit in the fridge for a good few hours before you can eat it, I'm afraid. You could pop it in the freezer, it does freezes really nicely. And I'm taking my spatula, my friendly spatula, and I'm just spreading it all the way round. So as I'm spreading, I'm turning the cake tin at the same time, so that I'm trying to get it as even as possible. The other thing about a spatula is that you get everything out of the dish. I really don't like on television when you've got these cake, chefs who leave half the ingredients in the bowl. That really upsets me when I see that. I know they've got a crew who will probably eat it, but I like to get every last bit. I think my staff, when they ever work with me, think I'm very, very mean because I never let anybody get to the end of the dish because there's never anything left in it, which is why I go for very good spatulas. So, yeah, that almost doesn't need washing now. It will do, but it's... So that's all my cheese in there like that. And that is pretty much there now. I'm going to do one last thing, apart from taking that little bit. I'm somebody who, as you probably realise, loves gadgets and loves different bits of equipment and food. So this is another thing which is really nice. This is a vanilla bean grinder. So this is real vanilla bean that's put into a grinder. Again, Lakeland do them, as does Waitrose, I think. And we're just literally just going to pop that on the top of the cheesecake to give it an extra bit of vanilla. Oh, it smells lovely. You could put that into a Havdalah candle, that'd be really nice. And that has actually not taken me very long at all. That's your cheesecake ready for Shabbat tonight, I think, maybe.